Welcome to another episode of the show called One Step. Let's talk about the journey, where we explore the inspiring stories and insightful journeys of entrepreneurs, innovators, and everyday heroes. I'm your host, Joel Bennett, and today we are diving into a topic that holds immense significance in our multicultural landscape: the Canadian education system and the unique contributions of immigrant teachers. Canada is renowned for its diverse population and inclusive approach, but how does this translate within our classrooms? Immigrant teachers bring a wealth of experience, cultural perspectives, and teaching methods that enrich the educational fabric of our nation. However, navigating the Canadian education system as an immigrant can be a journey filled with both opportunities and challenges. In today's episode, we will explore the experiences of immigrant teachers as they integrate into Canadian schools. We will discuss the impact of their diverse backgrounds and students' learning, and examine the support structures in place to help them succeed. Joining us today is Janice Spencer, a teacher and educator who will share her personal stories and insights on how immigrant teachers are shaping the future of education in Canada. So whether you are a teacher, a student, or just curious about the intersections of education and immigration, stay tuned as we delve into the dynamics or the dynamic world of teaching in Canada through the eyes of those who have journeyed from abroad to make a difference in our classrooms. So let's begin. Welcome to the show, Janice.
Thank you for having me.
It is an absolute pleasure. And like I normally do, my famous icebreaker questions. And I have one for you. I know this one is going to surprise you, right? I'm sorry, you ready for it?
I am. That's
so, if I should ask you, Janice, what was the biggest surprise you encountered when you first started teaching in the Canadian education system? That's your icebreaker question. What was your biggest surprise? Yeah.
Actually, my biggest surprise was the diversity within the classroom and the different cultures that are represented in the Canadian classrooms in comparison to what I'm accustomed to in Jamaica. So that, I would say, was my biggest surprise, like dealing with all those different cultural aspects and cultural backgrounds and understanding how to navigate them in order to ensure that I'm catering to all those needs within my classroom. So, yeah.
Can you give us an example? I like to probe a little bit more in questions that I ask. So any example you can throw in?
All right. So, for example, one of the main first ones I noticed was in dealing with those kids who are Filipinos.
Okay.
In Jamaica, you tend to ask kids to look at me when you're talking.
Yeah.
But in the Filipino culture, it is not the norm to give you that eye contact, and that's a way that they show their form of respect. So it's not that they're being rude by not looking, but it's just a part of their cultural norm. And that's something that I had to get accustomed to, like when dealing with those kids, like they're not going to give me the eye contact all the time. Yeah.
And was that cultural perspective hard to change, or do they evolve over time? I mean, those students from the Philippines, that is.
I think they evolve over time because you'll find that it's not all Filipino kids are like that.
Yeah.
The ones that are like born in Canada and parents are probably have been in Canada for a long time, you'll find that those kids are more like, they will more give you the eye contact, but it's the newer ones coming in. Parents are just coming in, settling and stuff like that. So those are the kids that you find will, like, shy away or look away when they're responding to you. And, you just have to get used to that. Like, you're talking to me, you're not looking at me, but it's okay.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I mean, all cultures tend to have their peculiarities. So, not that I'm surprised, but just surprised at that. That's new. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Let's dive into it, Janice. To start, can you tell us a little about your background and what brought you to Canada? The famous question.
Oh, the famous
Popular question.
All right. So I am Dr. Janice Francis.
Congratulations.
I am a proud Jamaican with a deep commitment to education. My education journey started in 1998.
Okay.
When I was invited to take on the post of a pre-trained teacher in the deep rural community in St. Andrew in Jamaica. At that time, you probably remember at that time, teachers were, there was a shortage of teachers.
There's always a shortage of teachers.
well, now there is again.
No.
But yeah, there was a shortage of teachers, especially in those deep rural schools. Yeah. And that's actually the community that I grew up in. And I started out there as a pre-trained at the age of 18.
Very early.
Yeah, then I went on to Michael Teachers College.
Famous Michael.
Yes, the Michael.
Yeah.
And I pursued a bachelor's in primary education there. And then I moved on to Western Carolina University, where I did a bachelor's degree in education with a minor in special education. I went back to Western again and did a master's degree in school leadership. And then most recently, I completed my doctorate degree in leading and learning with the University of Portland.
Gosh.
Yes.
I'm impressed.
Thank you. I am a mother to 3 wonderful kids. They are my life. They're my backbone. I love them with all my heart.
Do you want to shout them out? What are their names?
Yeah, Phoenicia. She's actually doing very well. She's now in her master's program.
Oh my God.
And she wants to be a psychologist, and she's on her way to doing that.
Brilliant minds.
Nadia is moving on to grade 12, and then there's baby Leah. She's moving on to grade 4. So the girls are doing exceptionally well here in the education and the school system here in Canada. I am also very active in my church community. Okay. I attend Mass regularly, or as often as I can. I came to Canada in 2013 on a spousal work permit. And at first, I didn't start out in education here. I worked with the government of Alberta for 2 years. And then in 2016, I moved back into the classroom. And I started back out as a classroom teacher.
Was your intentions at first, leaving Jamaica to come here to be a teacher also?
Yes, I did plan on getting back into the classroom, but I did understand too before getting here that it was a whole process and a whole lot of things that you had to do. So, I tried my best to get myself in and moving up and about until I was able to weave my way back through the system. Yeah.
We're going to get into that. Okay. We will definitely be getting into that. But before, let's just lay down some foundation topics first. Now, can you share a memorable experience from your first year teaching in Canada?
A memorable experience.
Memorable experience. I'm sure there are many.
There are many. My first year in Canada, I would say it was very challenging for me.
Yes.
Though I am extremely confident in my teaching abilities and my ability to, depart and impart knowledge to students, I felt that it was quite difficult for me to adapt to the environment.
Why you think that was?
Why? Well, the main thing was, back in Jamaica, we don't watch kids playing outside at recess. And here, when I was told that, you're on supervision, I'm like, what is that? What am I going to do? And they're like, you're going to take a walkie-talkie, you're going to grab a vest, and you're going to watch the kids play outside for 15 minutes. And if there's a problem, these are the protocols that you need to follow. And I'm like, okay, and how many times do I have to do this?
Yeah.
And they're like, 3-4 times for the week. I'm like, okay.
So is it, sorry to cut you off, is it the duty of all teachers, or because you just started?
No, it's all teachers.
Okay.
You're actually scheduled to do it.
Oh.
So yeah, when I was given that schedule, I'm like, I didn't even pay attention to the supervision schedule because I'm like, what is this? Until I was actually, you're on supervision. So yeah, that was one of the big, haha moments. I'm like, wow. It was extremely cold outside, and
at
I
that
had to
time,
go
was
out.
it, what season was it then?
It wasn't. I started in February.
Okay, so that's
yeah.
winter.
Yeah, it's winter.
Yeah, and the kids are allowed to play outside
as long as it's not cooler than -19.
Okay.
The kids are allowed to play outside. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to throw in, Janice?
Yeah. So in that time, I had to familiarize myself with the different protocols of the school division, because it's so different in terms of a lot of things that we do here than what we do in Jamaica. Fortunately, when I got employed, I was employed to one of those bigger school divisions, and they have a site that the portal that they keep populating with all sorts of stuff, and there are videos there as well telling you how to navigate certain of the things that they have available for teachers to use. So for example, like Power School is one of them, and it gives you videos of how to get into Power School, what exactly you need to do, how to make sure that you're doing the right thing, and how to double check and stuff like that. So they were equipped with stuff like those, and I had to spend a lot of time to navigate all of those things in my first year. And not only that, but me getting on in the first year, I did not get a lot of opportunity to substitute. That's to go from school to school.
Yes.
I was just employed with a temporary contract the moment I got on the sub list.
Yes.
And when I took over that job, it was actually for a teacher that had to go off on emergency leave. And I filled in for her at that time. And it was time for report cards. And this is me, brand new teacher here, never did a report card. And then I am told, oh, these report cards are due in 3 weeks. And I'm like, what? So, So, like, though it was very challenging, I must say.
Yeah.
That is what I think gave me my props. Like, I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to prove myself, and I'm going to show them the true Jamaican spirit and what true Jamaican teachers do. And I went right in. I worked very late at nights. I could remember I was in the building some nights until 7:30, 8 o'clock because I'm navigating through the portal. I'm learning this, and I'm still working on those things. And I'm still preparing to teach those kids that I've just met a couple days ago. So,
So I'm looking into something here, Janice. The job description for the grade that you were given, was it highlighted prior to you getting the position or the post? I mean, did you know what you were going to be doing for?
No, I didn't. So actually how it worked was I was just called, like, because I did, like, I did mention to them when I did my interview to get on the sub list that my availability would be for March in 2016. So when I saw them calling in January, I was like, oh, why are these people calling me? So when I picked up the phone, they were like, okay, there's this principal that need to have a discussion with you. And I'm like, okay, why? He wants to offer you a job. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, I did say, and they're like, yeah, we know that, but can you just at least talk with him and see what you guys can work out? So I decided, and I went ahead and had the conversation with him. And when I got there, he sold the position very well.
Of course. Of course.
But Joel, when I walked in that school, it's just vivid in my memory. When I walked in and
tell us about that moment.
That was the first time someone actually mentioned and called me Janice. It was always Janice. And I was like, okay, these people have been doing some research. Like, where did they get the pronunciation of my name from at the first go? And then when I looked over, there was the Sidella Marley's book sitting on the shelf. And I noticed something else was there, Jamaican. I don't remember what else they had there, but it was Jamaican as well. And I'm like, I feel like I'm at home.
Okay.
So when I went in and I spoke with the principal, only to find out that he lived in Jamaica for 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
So he did go
Yeah.
through the elementary education system in Jamaica. So he was like, the moment I realized that this is a Jamaican teacher, I had to have this teacher in my school with me. So, you know, just that got me hooked. And I decided to, you know, jump in sooner than I planned to. And I took over that class. Yeah.
I think that post was possibly destined for you.
Maybe.
Packaged and bowed up, waiting for you.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, the learning curve wasn't too steep?
In terms of teaching, no, because once you're a teacher, I say you're always a teacher. Like, you know, and when I started out, luckily I started at grade 1. Yeah. So the curriculum is not quite, the content is not quite as heavy as a grade 5 or a grade 6, where you know, there's a lot about the Canadian economy and the Canadian Canada as a whole, and you know, the history of Canada. So in grade 1, it's, you know, just about Edmonton, which was quite easy to research, and the few communities that surrounded the school. So that, you know, I learned a lot about the community at that time, because, you know, that's a part of the grade 1 curriculum, you know, my community in which I live, and the city of Edmonton. So, you know, I spent some time learning more about that with the kids, and I found that was a lot of fun for me. So yeah, the learning curve per se in that first year, the things that I had to learn was navigating the report cards online. I'm used to writing my report cards by hand. The writing IPPs. I've never done an IPP in my entire life until I moved here, and I had to do IPPs that year. You know, meeting with parents to discuss their. We do that in Jamaica, but this one-on-one thing where it's you do it like 2-3 times a year for individual kids. I've never done that before, so that was something too that I needed to learn.
The truth is, because I have a little bit of knowledge about Jamaican institution, the teachers, their responsibilities in general, and teachers from Jamaica, their job, task, everything about what teachers do in Jamaica is robust. So I feel like teachers from Jamaica, they have the muscle memory for any institution to fall into that environment and function. I mean, yeah, of course, there's going to be a learning curve, but I don't think it's going to be one that is overly steep, just like you have just highlighted. All right, there's so much I could get into with that, but I want to stay on track here. Now, can you talk about any mentorship experiences that have helped you to navigate the Canadian education system?
When I just started out, I signed up at the University of Alberta, though it was not a requirement at the time, because I wanted to put a foot in. I wanted to get some experience in the Canadian school system. So I signed up and I did an AFEX, Advanced Field Experience, for 9 weeks.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was placed, it's designed for people who are doing their Bachelor's of Education in their 4th year to go into the schools, work alongside a teacher, and get to understand the school and the system more, and, you know, best practices in education. So I signed up for that, and I was placed in an elementary school, and I did do that for 9 weeks, but I did have my teaching license like right after I signed up and I paid the fees and I got my placement. I went to the mailbox one day and there is my license to teach. So
wait a minute. How did you have to do any reassessments to get that license?
Yes, I had to hand all my stuff in and stuff from Jamaica and transcripts and stuff like that. So I had one course too that I had to do in Canadian history. So I did do that course online.
And how long did that take?
Well, you're given 6 months, but I did the course in 4 weeks.
People. Now, I don't really know her very well, but I know her. This woman is... She's a... What do they call those people who are fast learners? She's a very smart woman. Let me just keep it simple. Very, very smart woman. So you got yours in 4 weeks, you say?
Yes, I did it in 4 weeks.
Okay. All right, speak a little bit more about the mentorship, because I feel like I might have cut you off a bit there.
Yeah. So in terms of the mentorship, I was placed in a school.
Yeah.
And I was placed in a grade 6 class.
Yeah.
And, you go in and the whole works. And, I did not say at any point that I do have a license. I kept that to my bosom.
I see.
Because I wanted to be treated just like
Yeah.
all the other student teachers are treated. And,
Yeah.
When it came out time for me to plan my lessons and teach, well, the post came out of the bag immediately, because they could tell that she's not new and she was very experienced and she knew what she was doing. And my mentor teacher pulled me over like on the second day of me teaching, and he's like, "You're not a student teacher, right?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." I couldn't lie at the moment. So he sent the principal down, and she's like, I'm here to watch you, because I heard good things, and I wanted to see for myself. And so that's how it started. So that mentorship experience actually wasn't really like beneficial for me. I got to know a few people and made a few friends. And that's where I actually started out. So that's why when I got that call, I wasn't actually shocked, because I knew that something must have been going around. So
a few birdies made some whispers about this one pretender that is actually capable of exercising her duties. That's excellent. That's an excellent story, Janice. How about job perspective for immigrant teachers in Canada? What challenges did you face, and what advice would you give to others in similar situation?
Honestly, I would say that opportunities in Canada are indeed available for teachers. However, these opportunities, you won't find them readily in the city. So if teachers are willing to go on the reserves or in the rural communities, far up north, the Northwest Territories and those places, you will find teaching positions there. But a lot of persons tend to prefer the city schools, and that's where you find that there are not many jobs that are available.
In your opinion, why is that? In your opinion?
Because there are lots of perks, and if you're following like social media and teacher groups and stuff like that, you see them advertising all the time. My school's in need of this teacher, my school's in need of that teacher. But people tend to prefer the city schools because one, those are bigger school divisions, so there's more funding, so you'll find that you have a lot more resources sometimes. And sometimes too, it's just because of their own mental health and living far away from family and stuff like that. So persons tend to prefer to stay around in the city, but there are jobs if you are willing to go outside of the city.
It's just that you have to go outside of your comfort zone.
Exactly.
So for the jobs in the city, I want to speak a little bit more about the jobs in the city, Janice. Is it that the present teachers in these institutions, these schools, is it that they get employed and they just stay there? Because one position have to be open up for there to be other opportunities. So is it that the current teachers in those posts, they don't really leave those jobs? That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Absolutely. So teachers, once you start out as a temporary teacher, and then you get a permanent contract. And once you have the permanent contract, it's until you either die, you retire, or you decide to leave, right? And the thing with those contracts too, when you talk to teachers that have been there years before me, you understand that it keeps changing. The requirements keep changing. How much they hand out per year keep changing. So luckily, I started at January 2016, and I was lucky to secure a permanent contract in 2019. So just a little over 2 years, and I was made permanent, right? But there are teachers who said, I had to wait 8 years or 7 years before I could get it. And then I remember after I got mine, they were giving it to people in like a year. And then now I think this year went back to 4 years. You had to have 4 years of experience within that particular school division. So it keeps changing.
Without getting too personal, I'm just trying to get as much information as I can. So as a contract teacher, make the comparison between a contract teacher and a full-time teacher. What's the difference? What are the differences?
Job security. That's the only difference. A permanent teacher is secured in his or her position.
What about pay and benefits and the perks?
It's the same, yeah. the only thing is job security.
So I mean, they can let you go. You being on contract, they can let you go at any time for any reasons.
Not necessarily. If they sign you for the year,
Yeah.
unless you're like
Of course.
really bad, and
Yeah.
but if you're a member of the union too, you have to go through all those union protocols and stuff before you can actually ask someone to leave, unless it's something that you're convicted of that requires you to immediately go. But at the end of the year, for those temporary teachers, you have permanent teachers like myself that can choose to move schools. Like I did this year. After 8 years, I packed my stuff up and I moved over to a different school. But when those positions are open, you put your name out, and as a permanent teacher, you are allowed to go to those schools that have open positions. And if you're a temporary teacher in one of those positions, then a permanent teacher might just take it over at the end of the school year, and then you would have to go searching again. So so it's just job security, but all the benefits and stuff are the same.
And contract teachers are covered, are protected by the union too?
Yeah, we're all by the same union.
Okay.
Yeah,
I did not know that. I'm learning here.
That's okay.
Can you speak just a little bit, because I want to cover all my bases here, about the public school, the difference between the public school and is it the Catholic school?
The system?
Yes, the system. Can you tell what the difference is? Just the system.
There is nothing. There is no difference. It's just governed by a different head, but there's no difference. They're funded by the government of Alberta. In the instance of where I work, we're both governed by the government of Alberta, and we just have different superintendents. That's the only difference. The Catholics are allowed to teach religion as part of their curriculum.
Okay.
And the public school, they don't necessarily do that. I think they just do, maybe they call it religion. Yeah, but I don't think it's like us that actually teach the Bible, right? So I think they're allowed to do world religions, while in the elementary system for us, we just do the Catholic. We teach the Catholic principles in the Catholic schools,
So it's really just the religious
the religious aspects of it,
Okay.
But everything else remains the same curriculum, everything else.
Are there any social benefits?
None.
Okay. Just wanted to get that out.
None. The only difference is to teach in the Catholic school, unless you're in one of those high demand subject areas, you have to be Catholic.
Okay, what are those high demand subject
Well,
areas?
sometimes if you're like for French teachers, like they can't find French teachers because there's a shortage of those, then they might take on someone else. But for their religion lesson, they'll have to ask another teacher in-house that's Catholic to teach the religion for them. So so that's the only way they usually go out.
Thanks for that. I've always had thoughts on those differences, and I guess it's not as great as I thought.
No, it's not.
Can you discuss some of the key differences in job expectations and classroom environments between Canada and your home country? I'm just making a comparison between Jamaica and Canada now.
Well, the first one I would want to talk about is under curriculum standards is the classroom size.
Okay, tell us about
the
that.
classroom size.
We know what it's like in Jamaica, but I'm gonna get you the professional to talk about it.
Well, when you look at the number of children that are in the Jamaican classroom, in comparison to the number of children that we have in our classrooms here. I remember one here when I was given, I think, 25 kids, and one of my colleagues were like, "Oh, we should go talk to the principal because the classes are too big." And I looked over at her and I'm like, who am I to complain about 25 kids?
Is that the max?
25, 27. They're about for grades 1 to 3, I think. Don't quote me on those numbers. I might be wrong, but it's not more than about 27 for grades 1 to 3. And then I think they're allowed to go up to about 30 or so for 4 to 6.
Okay.
Yeah. So so the class size is much different.
So that's a breeze for you.
It's a breeze, yes. Another thing that I was impressed with was when a teacher is absent and the coverage that you get when you're absent.
Okay. So
you can book a substitute teacher to cover your class when you're not in school. Yeah, you're allowed that.
Wow. How often can you do that though?
Well, you're given a certain number of days and the reasons for those days. So it depends on your absence reasons. So you can book a sub in so you don't have to burden other teachers. In Jamaica, we would divvy the kids up,
Yeah.
and you take these
Yeah,
6
yeah.
or 7, and
Yeah.
for how long that teacher is not there, then the kids are spread out among other teachers. But here it's so different. The kids still remain in their room,
Yeah.
still remain with a teacher, but then I have to write a sub plan.
Yeah.
And if it's after 3 days, then that teacher will start writing their own plans. But if it's up to 3 days, then I plan and leave lessons for those teachers, that offer that teacher to cover my class for that period of time.
What if it's an emergency situation? You didn't get any time to plan these things to get that substitute teacher in. What would happen in that regard?
Well, if it's an emergency,
yeah, you can't come in that day.
If I can't come in because of an emergency,
Yeah.
then the sub list, like sometimes you can't find a sub, but principals, like, they always know how to make things happen. But we're not splitting kids. I've never had to take in other kids from another class.
Wow.
Whether the assistant principal, she leaves her office for that day and takes the class over, or they take one of the specialties like music and put the music teacher in. And we have things like teachers like learning coaches that don't actually teach a class but support classes and teachers. So they might not support any teacher or any other class for that day, but they'll take your class. But those situations don't happen very often because you know your body, and you know if you're not going to be okay. So it's like the chances of something like that is very minimal for somebody to just not show up because of an emergency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else that you can speak to in comparison?
Another comparison is the curriculum again. In Jamaica, we're so focused on exams, and you're preparing kids. I think they call them the PEP now in grades 1 to 6.
Yeah.
And when you get to grade 6, the pressure in Jamaica that is placed on those kids, because your marks on those exams will determine where you go from there.
What high school you end up in.
Exactly. Are you going to the traditional, or the ones that they just call the school up the road, or so. But here in grade 6, yes, the kids do the PATs in grade 6, but it's just to show where they're at, and for future planning. It doesn't determine where you go from there. And that's great. Another thing is the curriculum is in Jamaica, they're using a centralized curriculum where the entire nation, they work on the same curriculum. But here, the curriculum is decentralized. So it is the responsibility of the provinces and the territories to determine what goes into their curriculum and what is taught in the schools. So that too, although if you do some comparisons, because I know that Ontario, I think British Columbia, I think their curriculum is pretty close to the Alberta curriculum. Apart from some of the stuff I probably think in social studies when I looked at it.
Wouldn't you think that all the provinces have a similar curriculum, so the educational level, the structure might be the same? You're saying to me that it's not?
No, it's not necessarily the same. So when you look at, you'll find probably for math and language arts, you'll find a lot of similarities. When the kids get like in the bigger grades, like probably in junior high and stuff like that, the social studies might have a lot and science in common. But when you're looking at your city and the city that you live, you're looking at Edmonton. It's not Ontario or Toronto. So you're not going to teach some kids in Alberta about their city and teach them about the city in Ontario,
Makes
right?
sense,
So that's why I say that they're quite similar, except for some minor parts of
tweaks,
it that's specific to the province
location
itself.
Are there anything about the curriculum when compared to other provinces? Are there anything about the curriculum that's mandatory? It's mandatory that Alberta and Toronto have these aspects in the curriculum itself, and also other provinces. Are there anything at all about the curriculums that are mandatory, that should be common to both or all? I
don't know the answer to that, and that's worth researching. So that gives me something to research, but I'm not aware of that.
I would be curious if there were. Because the reason for that question, Janice, is that I'm thinking to myself, there should be some commonality to all the provinces when it comes to the people, or the kids, the children, students. But I guess that's something that I might need to go do some research on too. But my guess, my audience, If you guys know, put it in the comment section if there are any commonalities to curriculums, educational curriculums, when it comes to provinces. Let's move on to the next question here, Janice. Let's dive into the topic of one of my favorite, inclusivity. How have you seen Canadian schools promote diversity and inclusion, and what impact does this have on both students and teachers?
There is a lot of emphasis, and I mean, since I started out with my school division in 2016, the amount of growth that I have noticed and the amount of emphasis that is placed on inclusion and, you know, catering to the diverse set of students within the schools and the classes, it's tremendous. So if you look at the curriculum, I don't know if you have had a look, you know that recently Alberta, they rolled out the new curriculum. There were lots of talks and, you know, all sorts of things over social media about the curriculum and what shouldn't be there, what should not be there. But if you look at the inclusive aspects of that curriculum, though, you find that they have made intentional effort to include a lot of multicultural ideas and aspects to suit all those different cultural backgrounds that we have in the classrooms. So in the curriculum is one of the first places you'll find a lot of inclusivity is taken care of in the curriculum.
Can you give us any example?
For example, the Indigenous, like, you know, when you look at the amount of correlations that are made to our Indigenous community and our Indigenous populations. And when you look at all the celebrations that the curriculum also encourages us to incorporate in our lessons on a daily basis. So there is time when for Black History Month, there's something in the curriculum that talks about that. There's also the portal that gives you tons of information and activities for Black History Month, for Asian Heritage Month, you know, so all those different cultures that are represented, there is a time and place throughout the school year where all those kids are celebrated, all those cultures are recognized, and, you know, and then I know, like in my school, last school I was at, I was in charge of multicultural, and closer to the end of the year we have this huge multicultural event and all the cultures are represented, and every year it amazes me. Every year I'm like, look at that. When I look at the amount of cultures that are represented in one building, I'm like, wow. We have, like, last time I checked, I thought we had like 38 countries represented in one school. So
38 countries. Wow.
So
if you can think of anything else that you want to share, please feel free.
Also, in terms of inclusivity, they try to incorporate the community a lot in the different activities and events.
When you say incorporate the community, what do you mean?
We're talking about the parents and the community on a whole.
Okay.
So, like, we have Reading Week where we invite community members. Sometimes it's probably just the firefighters or the police or first responders and parents and whoever parents recommend to come in. And, you know, I work in the Catholic school district, so the priest might come in, but not just the priest. If you have a friend from a different church or, you know, you can invite them in as well to come read with the kids, to come share with the kids. And, you know, so that part of it too, you know, there's a lot of inclusion. In terms of inclusivity too, we do roll out, like a lot of the school divisions, there is the EDIAR now, where they're focusing a lot on the equity, race, diversity and inclusion of all students. And they have like consultants that you can reach out to if you need activities or you just need help with navigating through something. They will do the research for you and just bring you everything on a platter, and like, these are the things that you can do within your own class, within your own schools, to help kids feel more welcomed and comfortable in your environment.
When you hear families have conversations, and this is a common topic, most persons would say one of the main reasons I decided to move to Canada is not so much for myself,
For the kids.
it's for the children. Because truth be told, man, kids are taken care of here. The definition of precious cargo speaks to how Canada treats the children in the school system. And you're right. I have seen some of that. I mean, think about it. The bus come and pick up your kids right at the front of your home. You take them to school. You drop them off. They are received by teachers. Like, teachers are right there receiving them. They go into their different classes, and the security measures to make sure that nobody strays are there. And then after which, the bus is right there waiting on them to receive them, to deliver them back to you in your hands. Man, what else?
And you're leaving out that part too. If the bus gets there and your child is below a certain age and you're not there to take them off the bus, you better know that the bus is taking them right back to school.
There you go.
Yeah.
So when you hear people say that, man, I'm not necessarily here for me, I'm here for my children, that's the reason. I just feel like I wanted to highlight that to our listeners, that how precious, how beautiful it is in terms of how our kids are taken care of in the schools here in Canada. And thank you for sharing that.
And Joel, before you go along, there is also another big one.
Tell us about it.
With the those or special needs kids.
Man, forget about that one.
Can I tell you that Please. I have never taught a special needs child until I came into the Canadian classroom.
Oh my. Tell us about that experience.
I've never, and I talk to my colleagues all the time and I say, so in Jamaica, where are these kids? Is it that our population, we don't have kids who are special needs? Or is it that, but then afterwards though, you start thinking and you're like, I remember a little Tom or a little Jerry, and they displayed this sort of behavior. There was no medical diagnosis, but then you wonder was I doing enough for those kids back home? Because, these behaviors were not, we didn't really attend to them. We didn't do much to help those kids. But the resources too are too limited anyways. Yes. So, the demands and pressures of the classrooms in Jamaica, it's a lot. But then you wonder where those kids are and what happened to them.
That's a very valid point.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I have a feeling that this is not going to be our last discussion. So let's stick a pin on that one, because that's a really, really good point right there. And I mean, if I should ask you, if obviously we just spoke about diversity and inclusivity, and it's profound in the sense that there are evidence everywhere that speak to the process and the validity of it, how it's carried out, and if it's seen, if there are examples of it. So I feel like that question has been answered.
Yes.
Where the school system is concerned.
Yes, and there are lots of human support as well for, when you look at the inclusion in the class and kids who have special needs and the amount of support that they get within the classroom setting. It's tremendous. I applaud the system for that. Those kids are well supported.
The issue is not where children are concerned. The issue is the adult part of things. But let's not digress too much. So how do Canadian schools support teachers in creating inclusivity in the classroom environment? Are there structures for that?
Oh yes, tons of support.
Tell us about it, please.
There are so many support. I don't think you can exhaust them all. As a teacher, I've never exhausted all the support systems that are in place in my school division, that is, because I can speak to that because I know about it. But there are tons of workshops. And these workshops are all free.
Free workshops?
Free workshops, free professional development.
Okay.
You can bring a consultant in. They're all there, free of charge. You call them up, you make a date, ask them what their availability looks like, and they'll come in. If you are having a difficult child or a difficult time, like grasping a concept or bringing something across, you have it there. In terms of technology, there are so many technological tools and devices that are available at your fingertip to help kids, whether it be something to just do some translation for you. And if you can't be bothered with technology, then you can get a human person to come in and do some of that for you as well. So all of those things are like they're available at our fingertips for use.
And they're all covered under the government.
I don't know if they're under the government. I know that they're under the school division.
Okay.
So they have all of those people that you can reach out to for help if that is needed. So teachers are well supported. In not last year, but the year before, I had like 3 adults in my room added to myself dealing with behaviors and kids who needed that special help and stuff like that. So
can you speak to that in terms of that support system that were there to help you with difficulties with students? Like what does that look like if that's something you can talk about?
Well, yes, I can talk about it. The support system, it's really strong, and they're trained people. And what they do is that's their specialized areas. So you have like a behavior specialist. So I'm having a kid who's having this behavior problem. How do I deal with it? Or I need help with managing this behavior. Like, what are some strategies that you can help me with? And they're the professionals. They have studied all of this in school. So they will come in and they will make plans for you. They will help you to meet with parents to have discussion if it's something that needs to be, signed or approved by parents. If there's testing that needs to be done, you bring your learning coach in, you bring your whole multidisciplinary team in, because there's a whole multiple disciplinary team in the school that comprises of emotional behavioral support, teacher TABTs, behavioral therapists. There are some speech therapists as well. There are occupational therapists. So you have all these people at your fingertips to knock on their shoulders for whatever you might be seeing in your classroom that you might need some extra help with. So it's there and it's free.
Let me poke a little bit, just a little tiny bit, on behavioral issues. And again, if some things can't be said, be mindful of it. Can you give us an example of a behavioral difficulty that you faced and how it was dealt with?
Kids will be kids all the time, but when things are excessive. And an excessive behavior might look like a kid not able to sit for a 30-minute lesson or for 20 minutes, or they can't focus past 5 minutes. And then this is usually an area of concern that you want to look at to see what can I do to help this child, since he or she is only able to sit for 5 minutes. And this is where our specialist comes in, and we'll develop a plan, and if the child needs an IPP, then that is done as well, if the child is coded as well. And then we work with that to ensure that the kid is getting the necessary parts of the education, but as well as getting all the other supports or breaks that might be needed for them to be successful. So it might be a pull-out program where somebody comes and pull them out 2 or 3 times for the day for 10 minutes just to regulate them and bring them back and stuff like that.
You would not see that in Jamaica.
No, you won't. You won't see that.
Would, and I'm not going to say what would have happened, because again, we want to be mindful of certain discussion on certain topic. But you would definitely not see that. What strategies did you use to adapt to the Canadian classroom environment and its expectations? We want to hear about Janice's skill set now. So what strategies have you used?
What I did initially, like I told you before, I used to spend a lot of time in school. So at the end of the day, school ends at 3. I'll be there until 8 o'clock. And what I'll be there doing, I spent a lot of time to understand the curriculum. And I paid special attention to the CUSP and the assessment practices that they use, because it's so different from Jamaica. Here, there is a big focus on formative assessment. And in Jamaica, you do your test, but they're mostly summative. And Jamaican classrooms too, it doesn't lend itself to doing all these kinds of assessment anyways, because the class sizes are just way too big and the kids are cramped in most of those classroom settings. So I paid a lot of attention to that. So I had to do a lot of research on what are some formative assessments that the district is using, and how can I incorporate some of those in my lessons on a daily or on a weekly basis to ensure that the kids are getting maximum attention to different parts of the curriculum, and to make sure that they're being assessed properly and the correct measures are taken to to look at those areas that the kids might need some improvement in, and what I'm gonna do and my way forward to ensure that they get that. I attended a lot of professional development sessions and the ATA tools. So I spoke about the ones that the division did earlier.
Yes.
But the Alberta Teachers Association, they also have lots of free professional developments. Some are even on Saturdays, some are after school, some are just online that you can attend. Yes, there are some paid ones as well. I've never attended the paid ones, but I did make use of the free ones. There is also the ERCL, the Edmonton Regional Learning Consortium, and they too provide lots of free professional development, and they tell you what they're about. They tell you what the objectives of those are about, so you can always go on their website as a teacher and see which of these do I need, and then you can sign yourself up for some of these training sessions to help you to navigate the system. So I did use quite a few of those. The ATA, again, they have grants that teachers can access. I have accessed those grants, and I have used them to go to different conferences, and paid for conferences and stuff like that. So I did use that as well. I also made an intentional effort to build relationships with teachers in the school, experienced teachers, and with families, right? Because that was the only way I would learn more about the culture of the school. Because, every school culture is different. And I've learned that here. I work in one school, and the culture in the school is different from the culture in another school. So I spent a lot of time learning the culture and the climate of the school, so I could fit myself in as best as I could, so that I could be as successful as I can as a teacher. I also continually adjust my teaching practices to reflect the need and meet the needs of the learners in the classroom. So that would mean I might steal something from somebody else because they like that. It looks good, and the kids look engaged. Like, I'm gonna try that. And luckily, in my school we have this program. It is a praxis program, and in this program you got to visit teachers twice per month, and you could visit another teacher's classroom. Really? Right, within the school though. Wow. And you could see some of their best practices. They would come in, they could see some of yours as well. And you could use back some of those. So there was time scheduled for those throughout the school year. So I used those as well. But then there is another thing. There's like, Joel, there are so many things here. There is this other thing that the ATA does where they give you a half a day. They pay for a teacher to come into your class half a day, and you choose to go to another school. Now it doesn't have to be within your school, but you choose another school, and you can meet with another teacher, and you can go there for half a day and observe their class, observe what they're doing. And I've done that. I've also joined many communities of practices where they have specific things. So I'm always signing up for things like those, and I go in those community of practices. I learn from those consultants, and then I go back and I share with the teachers at my school, and that's how I've been using. Those are the things that I've been using to navigate my way through the system until today. And another thing, I do take care of myself. I practice self-care.
well, that goes without saying. You have to put into you so you can put into your students. But Janice, the resources are limitless, man.
Yeah, there are lots of resources.
Limitless, and so many opportunities for growth and self-development because of all those options that the institutions offer. Canada has gotten a gem.
I think so.
Because I know that your knowledge level and skill set is beyond expectation.
It is.
But I mean, I see the world as just one unit. We're creating minds, good minds. We're building our kids up. So it doesn't matter where you're planted. You're planted here because you're supposed to be here. And you're doing what you're supposed to do, man. Okay. Have you seen any changes in the job market for teachers since you arrived in Canada? If so, what are they?
Changes in the job market?
Yeah.
There are not really many changes. if like there was like about 2 years ago, I can remember, where my school division was one of those, like, we're in Ontario and all over Canada doing lots of recruitment. But again, most of these teachers were for French. They're mostly French teachers and specialized subject area teachers that they were looking for. But what I do understand, like, just like with any other profession, it's all dependent on the age of the population.
Okay.
So I felt like there was a point when there were a lot of teachers retiring because they did make it to that age of retirement. And then the shortage came in, and then those positions were quickly filled up.
I can imagine.
And then it's just back to where it is now. It's not quite easy because, like I said before, it's about 4 years wait now to get a permanent contract, because somebody has to leave for somebody else to get that position. Right? So
I don't have this question here, but just from your ears on the ground, have you heard any conversations on the incorporation of AI into schools? It just came to me. It just came to me.
I use AI all the time.
Tell me, what is it that is being used? What is out there? What is it being used in the classroom? What are the tools that are being incorporated?
All right. So, we have our technology consultants in our school divisions, right? And, they're always on the ball with those kinds of stuff. And then they come in and they show you many ways in which you can make your work as a teacher way more easier with the use of AI. So I use AI all the time, from just getting a decodable passage in 3 seconds for a particular vowel or some blends or whatever my focus is on in language arts, to just answering questions sometime or doing a little research on something, and I'm using AI. So AI, for the older kids, they might use it more advanced than for the younger kids that I do. But for my younger kids, I don't have them going using any AI or stuff like that. But as a teacher, I do use AI. Your lesson plans, getting ideas, getting some activities. Sometimes you just feel like they're kind of boring or probably getting outdated, and you want to see what's out there, and you go and you ask. And then now our school division, since recently, I think they paid for Microsoft Copilot. And then so all teachers now have access to that version of it.
What is that version?
So it's a AI tool in Microsoft. So it's called Copilot. So you can go in and build lesson plans, you can build quizzes, you can ask, like, put report cards, comment together, and all of those things. So there's like so much that you can do with it. So I know that all teachers have it, and then I think the teachers with the older grades, those kids probably have access to it as well, and they can use it to help them in their lessons.
I had to ask that because I know which direction the future is headed, and I know some of the things that are out there, and I was just wondering where the school system is concerned. Where are they with technology for teaching, educating,
but one of the things though that we focus on a lot is responsible use.
Yes, of course.
Of all of those. So there's a big focus on making sure that you're teaching the kids the responsibility and the responsible use of those things that are available to us, those technological tools that are available. Yeah,
absolutely. What are your future aspirations within the Canadian education system? I know you're a doctor now. Let's just make sure before we end, we talk about that. Again, congratulations are in order. Let me let you talk. let me let you talk before I go get a divert too much. So tell us about that. What does the future look like for Janice?
Well, for me, the biggest thing is to continually uplift myself, continually read, because I want to make sure that my teaching skills are on par. Those younger teachers coming out of university, they come with all these new things that you want to know about them as well.
I do.
So
I do. Competition is going to be stiff.
Exactly. So, to be more effective, that's one of my biggest goals. But as for my own profession, my biggest goal is to move out of the classroom, not totally, but a little bit out of it. So
when you say move out of the classroom, you can't just tell me stuff I think I'm just gonna just glass over it now. What do you mean? What do you mean by?
I just want to go beyond the classroom a little bit, Joel. I am setting myself up to become an admin.
Okay.
And I am well on the way of it looks quite possible, and in the near future it's likely to happen, and that's where I'm heading. So
Oof. I'm gonna be watching. I'm gonna be checking in. I do believe that there's no limit where you are concerned, because I know that you're a smart, very intelligent woman, and that's the reason why I started after you, to be here to offer our audience, our listeners, gems, directions, enlightenment, because I know you have it, and you have it to offer. So thank you again in advance. And that's a wrap. I know we don't want to end, right? But that is a wrap. It's the invaluable role of immigrant teachers goes beyond. A big thanks to you, Janice Spencer, for sharing your stories and experiences with us on the show called One Step. Let's talk about the journey. It is clear that diversity of our educators not only enriches our classroom, but also fosters a more inclusive and understanding society. As we've learned today, immigrant teachers bring a wealth of knowledge, cultural perspectives, and teaching techniques that enhance the learning experiences of Canadian students. Their journeys highlight both the challenges and triumph of integrating into a new educational landscape, and the vital support they need to thrive, which we all know the Canadian system is set up with all those resources. For those of you listening, whether you are an educator, a student, or simply someone interested in the future of education, remember the power of diversity in shaping our schools and communities. By embracing the unique contributions of immigrant teachers, we continue to build a stronger, more vibrant educational system. Thank you for joining us today on the show called One Step. Let's talk about the journey. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories and insightful discussions. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing. Janice, do you have any final say for our listeners, our audience, before you go?
I just want to say, especially to parents, if with students in the Canadian school system, that just I mean, on the inside, I know what's happening, and teachers are working really hard to make sure that your children are getting the best possible education. And sometimes it's just a good idea to trust your kids' teachers. They know what they're doing. They know what's best for the kids, especially when they're in the school setting. And remember sometimes that the children you see at home, those are not the kids in school.
Of course not. Of course not. Well, there you have it, my people. Thank you for joining us. And we just want to say thanks to Janice for coming on and making this so fun, interesting, and educational. You all take care. Please like, share, subscribe. There is much more to come. Stay tuned. You all take care, and bye.
Thank you.